So, my name's Isaac. I said that I always forget to introduce myself, so I put my name on. How many of you know what sync is? Have you heard that word before? Anyone? A few, okay, not too many. So, oh wait, do I have the thing? Just wait. Okay, so I work in sync. I'm a music supervisor. I work in a company which does music supervision, licensing, bespoke composition, remixes, artist and brand partnerships. So I've done less of that, but my team have worked with like Dua Lipa on Jaguar adverts and things like that. My main job is placing music in media. So, get back with noise. So, sync is basically short for synchronization. So, music synced to media in some kind. So, I think I've covered everything: film, TV, games, ads, online. So, like social spots, something on YouTube, TikTok. The majority of my work is in things like this, so like trailers for film and TV series. So you might hear people talking of, I'm not sure if anyone's used this language today or not, but a placement or a use, or their music has been synced in. I'm never actually sure how people in the industry spell it. I think it differs every time. I've got synced or with an apostrophe, but any of those variations. If your music has been used in something, it's been synced, placed, licensed. So one that I thought most of you will have known about. If you haven't seen it, you've probably heard about it or read about it. The Kate Bush song in, was it season 4 of Stranger Things? So Running Up That Hill got used in very iconic scene in the show, but also was drip fed at different points in the show. And then they actually ended up using a remix of it in a trailer after that as well, which was really cool from my perspective, because sometimes there's no connection between the trailer and the actual show. But that was a really, really interesting example where a sync just blew up. Lots of people, I think my youngest sister didn't know the song before it was used in Stranger Things, which blew my mind, but it was fascinating how it got back into the charts. I think it got to like number 2, which somebody might know, but it got revitalized through sync. So that's a famous song example, but this can also be a way that any of you could get an audience, could place your music in something, get money also, which I'm sure is of interest to everyone. I'll come on to that. But also get some familiarity with a new audience. So if your music got used in, say, I mentioned Jaguar, like a Jaguar advert, or a trailer for sex education, or I don't know, anything you like. If your music got used in something that had an audience that isn't your usual crowd. So we've been talking earlier about marketing to, say you've got a big indie fan base in Glasgow or something like that. If someone like me decided to use your music in like a trailer for The Witcher or something like that, then there's going to be a cross-section of those kind of fans in Glasgow that like your stuff. But, you know, how many people watch that show? Like a dad in Mexico or something like that. Like anybody that could be hearing your music for the first time, they Shazam it and then they find you. So one of the big things about sync, and the reason that I've spoken at Wide Days before, is if you are really targeted in your approach, then you could use strategically one of these film, TV, games ads to your advantage to elevate yourself, to make money, to find new fans, and to kind of add to your brand. So it was touched on, but like, if you're really clear on like what you're out to do in the world and who you are, then people remember you, and then you might just get synced again and again and again. So I have definitely had days where I'm just lazy and I've got too much going on with a brief, and I'm just trying to think of a song that would work for this trailer, and then I'm like, who did that song for that sync in that Netflix show? And then I look at them, or I look at similar artists to them, and if you're on the playlists and similar, like for fans of Ed Sheeran and you're kind of making stuff like that, then someone like me might find you because you've branded yourself so specifically to be found like that. So, who makes this happen? Music supervisors, so someone like me, directors, producers, marketing managers who would be like somebody at Netflix who is working with a filmmaker or a series maker and then taking their vision and branding it and marketing it to the world. So I've worked on like 4 seasons of The Crown, and there's usually a point of contact at Netflix who is working with Peter Morgan, the show director, showwriter, and he has a very, very clear vision. So, but he's not picking the music for the trailer. Someone like I am, or the woman at Netflix is. So she'll be reviewing all the trailers that get made and then going, I like that one, or the music's awful, or music's great, let's go in that direction. Or editors. So depending on the campaign and how much sway the editor has on someone, they might directly just be pulling stuff they love. Sometimes it's out of time pressure. So, the industry can be chaotic, especially in ads and trailers where you've got really, really quick turnarounds. So again, I like that there's a link to everything. I didn't prepare this, but like all the playlisting and everything. If you're being discovered in that way and your music lands with an editor, then they might push your music to the director. So sync is this big kind of multifaceted industry, but I can't stress enough, if you are really clear with like who you are, your sound, your image, you can get into the pockets of one of these people in the process, then it's more likely that your music's going to go somewhere. So I'm a music supervisor. I supervise the music for these campaigns, but often I'm not listened to because a director has a vision, a producer has a vision, an editor has a vision. I can advise and I can guide and I can suggest the best options, but a lot of the time I'm not making the final call. So if an editor has seen you perform live here and you've made a personal connection with them, or you've been really, really on it with your TikTok or your Instagram or things like that, editors will find you and then push your music to me, or push it to me as a reference for me to find other things similar to that. So that's all the kind of behind the scenes of sync. So any of these people, I'm in the way, anyone working on the editing or the post-production side who is responsible for choosing, working with, or licensing music to picture, basically. So anybody that can get music into an edit, basically, which is, it can be simple, sometimes it's very difficult. So these are all the places that you could have your music placed. I may have missed a few, but so did I even put mine? Yeah, I did. Trailers, video games, which is what the rest of my team in London work on. So like Assassin's Creed trailers. They just did the score for the Life is Strange game, if anyone's a fan of that. In a film, in a TV series like the Kate Bush thing, sports promos, social campaign. Some films go really hard on their social stuff. I think it was Deadpool 2, when I was working on it for a while, ages ago, and Ryan Reynolds is, he's so creative and so good with all that side of the campaign. There was so much stuff. There were PR stunts. I think there was like a billboard somewhere that obviously doesn't have music, but there's a tie-in to like this whole campaign where they had a really expensive, like older song. And so if your music becomes synonymous with a campaign like that, so I'm just gonna go back to Stranger Things because it's easy, but like the song then might get relicensed. If it's taking off, it's doing well, it's become part of the sound of the show, then like the marketing team might go, oh, this is working quite well, let's license it again for some social media, or let's extend our license and cover like another territory beyond the UK or something like that. So essentially anywhere where there's a piece of media where music's under it, your music could go under it if you're tapped into the right places, if you've got all your rights available. I'm not going to do a talk on that now because it's too complicated. You should come to White Days at some point. But basically, I need to be able to license your music. There's no point having an incredible song or an incredible background to who you are, or I might love your story, but like none of that really matters if you don't have a way for me to pay you and give you a contract. So it's so important to do all the right stuff with distribution, metadata. If you look up online, you can find like a 101 guide to metadata, but basically like the composers on the track, who owns the master and the publishing rights, who do I email on that day where my like producer goes, we want to license this track, make it happen tomorrow. How do I reach you? And will you reply in time? Because I can't tell you how many people have missed out on thousands of pounds of an opportunity because they took 3 weeks to reply to an email. I just go for a different track. So if you don't think you have the capacity to do that yourself, look into labels, publishers, sync representatives. It's a whole world out there, and there's lots of conferences that happen in this world. But the good thing about having someone that is connected and at all these events is that they know people like me, they know the editors, they've just been around a long time in the scene, so they get to know the taste of those people. So like I said, if an editor, if they love like Nine Inch Nails or something like that, they'll be pitching that. If you make that kind of music, they'll remember to pitch it to them or invite them to free gigs or stuff like that. It's all interconnected. And then that one day where the editor's like, yes, I can use a track that sounds like Nine Inch Nails, but we only have £5,000. Like, oh, let's use this like indie Scottish band. And then that's your sync. That's how that happens. How much time do I have? Benefits for you as an artist. I already mentioned money. I'm sure that's one of the main things. That's what, I mean, we all need it. But that varies so much. I get asked, like, how much can I make in a sync? And it's kind of how long is a piece of string, because I've put a few things on here. So adverts and trailers are kind of renowned for being more lucrative. Not always, and in the UK a little bit less so. But if it's like a Johnny Walker campaign or a Mercedes campaign or something, you can bet that the fee's probably going to be pretty high. And when I say pretty high, I mean it depends on the size of the song. So if you're licensing like a Queen song, they're obviously not going to do it for £500. It might be 50 grand to £500,000, depending on like what the thing is. I'm not saying don't walk out of this talk and go, Isaac said we can get £500,000 for a song. No, not at this point. That very few things go for that kind of money. But if you look reputable as an artist, if you're covering all the things that everybody talks about here, if you've got like great album artwork, if you like have a presence in a certain field, if you like for fans of Boy Genius and you're coming up on all the playlists and you like have a good following, my clients do look at that stuff. Part of my like job is research and consulting to find like who's upcoming European artist in the queer scene, or like who is massive in the States right now, with like 25 to 35-year-old women or something like that. So all the stats and everything do matter. I already mentioned you can diversify your fan base or you can grow a new one. So some of my favorite placements are things where I get to tap into the fan base of a show with the kind of music they would like. So, I'm trying to think of an example. Well, I'm just going to go back to it. The Witcher, two of the things we did for that, they were remixes of existing songs, but it's still a sync because it's a placement. We remixed Fleet Foxes' Your Protector, which is obviously an older song, but it just fits so well. It matches that universe really well, kind of indie. It's kind of intangible to describe it, but it works. Trust me, it works. And then we did Woodkid, not the one that everyone knows, Run Boy Run, it was a different one, Horizons into Battlegrounds. So like his voice is known in that world. People on YouTube you could see were like, is this Woodkid? Like trying to find, but they didn't know which song exactly, but it tapped into that world, and Woodkid was sharing it all over his Instagram when the trailer came out, so that was really exciting. He clearly loved it. We weren't sure if he was going to approve it because we'd changed some of the song, and he's quite precious about stuff, but it worked, and he got a decent fee from that, and we got paid for doing a remix of the song. So another way you could get a sync is by making cover songs, or remixes are a bit more complicated, and I don't have time to get into that, but if you are making covers of famous songs, I often, again, have editors finding stuff and being like, I found this random, like, Spotify sessions cover of whatever, and we're trying to find, like, a beautiful acoustic version of something, like an old Nirvana track or something, but done with, like, a female spin on it. So, I don't know if I've touched all this, but the fees vary on, like I said, the size of the artist, the scale of the project. So if it's something like the Crown, obviously huge IP, if they're reaching out to somebody to license their music, the person licensing it is going to be like, well, come on, it's a big campaign. I'm sure you have like some budget there. But if it's like Joe from down the street is doing his like indie film, it's going to be so different, obviously. The length of the use. So in trailers, we tend to just kind of license for the whole duration of the song because it gets cut up so much, and it's often used for the entire trailer, which is around 2 or 3 minutes. But in a film or a TV show or something, there might just be 10 seconds of the instrumental of the song. So the fee is going to be kind of directly proportional sometimes. Where it's shown, territory, so just here, or if it's online, it usually has to be worldwide because of the nature of the internet. The type of media, if it's released in theatrical, so in a cinema, if it's just online, if it's on radio, you can do a combination of these things. So your license might say, license for TV and radio for 1 year. There's all kind of manner of like combinations you can do. And that's usually where that and the bottom line about how long people are negotiating. So like you go in with a budget, can we license this song from you for £10,000 for this trailer campaign, blah, blah, blah. They say no, but we can do it for £8,000 if you reduce it to 1 year instead of forever, and blah, 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 blah. And the third thing, another benefit is you can build a show reel for sync. So if you start getting some placements, even if they're kind of smaller things like a local Edinburgh brand, like you could start small, like get in touch with companies where you notice they're doing online advertisements and things. They're going to be licensed, well, they should be licensing music. You could get some placements under your belt, then use that, make a show reel, have a website. Someone like me sees you, and it's not just like a random, like jenny@gmail.com kind of thing. You've got a brand, you've got a presence, you look like you know what you're doing, you've placed stuff before. That indicates to me that somebody can license your music because it's already gone on something. When I get random reach outs from people, as much as I want to reply, I get so many, like hundreds and hundreds of things, thousands of things a week. I can't go through everything. But the ones that catch my eye are the ones where it's like, hey, I've done adverts for Nike and Coca-Cola and all these things. My music is in the world of X. I own all the copyright. Like, you can reach out to me directly. Here's my number. We'd love to hear from you. Just like brief and clear. I don't need your whole life story as much as I want to read it. I don't have time. So just be really, really clear with like who you are and your sound. Some examples. Pictures on the site. So these are all pretty big syncs, but just to give you an idea of how this happens. So you mentioned the Witcher one. Last Christmas, that's quite an old one now, but when I worked in an agency that made trailers, I was the music supervisor in the agency. We licensed a Birdie song, Keeping Your Head Up. the thing with, oh God, I forgot her name, Emilia Clarke, no? The English Game was a thing on Netflix. Well, that was one of those examples where an editor was kind of steering the ship, and he sat with me and he described to me his edit. He showed me some of the things he was working on, and it had a lot of like mills and industrial kind of things from when it was about when like football became a thing. I think that was what it was. And so it was quite gritty, but it had this kind of Downton Abbey classy thing at the same time. So I tried to find something that had like a work song kind of feel to it, that was like a chant type of thing. And I remembered I got this Aloe Black song that was currently unreleased on file. So that kind of stuff is exciting to producers and things if they're going to have a song that no one's ever heard before just for their campaign. It gives a bit of like sparkle to it. And then recently we did the Gentleman trailer, which was, again, we remixed the song, so we took all the parts and we changed it a little bit, but the zombies track Time of the Season. So if you've got, I don't have time to play all these trailers, but if you've got a song that is syncable or sync ready or good for sync, all these things will come up. You might have like interesting hooks or fun, playful ideas that an editor could use. So that one, for example, if you know the song, it's the time of the season 4, and the actual song says loving, but we got rid of the word loving and did like a stop, loads of drums and everything, and then I think it came up with the title of the show, or it's like Guy Ritchie or something. So it's the time of the season 4. So ways you can do that with your music is think about how music gets used in campaigns. Watch some trailers, watch some ads, and look how it's been cut by an editor. So are they going, like in lots of ads use things about newness and new beginnings and something new and brand new, a lot of new stuff because they're advertising something. Trailers, there's universal themes of like love, regret, truth, secrecy, all these things. You want to be poetic about it, but also interesting and playful, and think about editors when you're doing it, because I obviously I love a lot of music, but it doesn't all work to be placed in the things I work on. Do we have time? Okay. Maybe note that one down. This I thought was an interesting example of a trailer I worked on that was a re-release of an old film. So it's kind of a way that you can revitalize both a film and a song. So older film, my client cut a new version of a trailer that just like updated it a bit because they were re-releasing it in 4K remastered or something like that. I got a song that was by the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers, but without Bob Marley. And that's the power of using a song from an original context, but in a new marketing campaign. And so the song got a new leash of life, and the people that made that song originally got money, and the film kind of rebranded itself, but still kept the original era to the song. So how do you get your music synced? I've covered quite a lot of it, but my main advice, and I've already said, is just have a really, really strong artist profile. So, sorry. I'll stop, but if you have any questions on those things, and make the music good. That's yeah, professional, top quality, obviously. Okay.